I am Xiaoji. I am a past grantee of Interledger Foundation with a Future Money Art and Culture grant. And it's an absolute pleasure for us to come here and invite all this diverse perspective into the room to talk about financial inclusion for undocumented communities from strategies to practices. So, undocumented communities, such as refugees, asylum seekers, and migrants, often face significant barriers in accessing digital financial services involuntarily. Fundamental rights of undocumented community can be very easily overlooked in terms of political uncertainty and limited resources. And some of their legit financial rights are often not recognized or even understood. However, it's incredibly crucial for their economic integration and empowerment. And today we are here together to try to answer the questions, what strategies can be leveraged to advance the financial inclusion for those underrepresented community, and which coalitions should we build, what kind of technologies are needed, and what movements should we connect to. So I guess it's clear that the question we are asking today is not a technical one, and it's also not a regulatory one. It's a one about community. And together we are here with people from diverse and overlapping communities and who work with diverse communities, and through those community processes, form strong coalitions to advance the financial inclusion for undocumented communities. They're experienced practitioners in their own fields. Together, they'll bring us insights from their communities, the communities they're working with, different cases, different lessons, and also discuss how can we go from community to a form coalition. So, I guess I'll start with a quick introduction of each of the panelists and leave it for you all to introduce yourself. So we have here Eunice Diaz's community organizer of Here to Support and Migrante. And we have Savannah Cullen, the co-director of Here to Support. And then we have Sarah Habib, fintech strategist from London. And then we have Malo Lindmeyer, co-director of Here to Support. And Here to Support is a current grantee of Interledger Foundation working on increasing digital financial inclusion for refugees and undocumented migrants in the Netherlands, together with the VAC Future Lab and with the support of Municipality of Amsterdam. So the floor is yours. Could you please briefly introduce your work and experience with financial inclusion, particularly how it relates to undocumented communities and migrants, and what communities that you're a part of and you have been working with?
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. I am Eunice Diaz, and I've been working in the community as an organizer for 10 years now. And most of the times I'm working with undocumented, displaced people, refugees. I am a researcher and as well as a chairperson of Filipino undocumented migrants.
Yeah, hello everyone. My name is Savannah Kolen. I'm the founder of Here to Support. I founded Here to Support 11 years ago. I'm working with undocumented communities since then. We founded Here to Support because there are many charity organizations around displaced people, but there are not many organizations that are focused on system change. So one of the key elements that we try to bring forward is to make undocumented people part of solution making, because there's a lot of talking about undocumented migrants, but they are not most of the time invited at the table. Also not by organizations that should do this. So our strategy in that is to make undocumented people as visible and as heard as much in society as possible. Yeah, next to Here to Support, I'm an activist, and I also worked for the Green Party, so I love campaigning. So.
Hello everyone, I'm Sarah Habib. I'm from London. I'm a fintech strategist, and in my day job, I bring together user research and product strategy to really build out new and renew fintech components. I specialize in an area called Fintech for Good, is what I call it, which is basically smoothing out the headaches for everyday people. And within that, I like to focus in building out new products and services for people, communities that are marginalized. I've worked with people that are partially sighted, people with Alzheimer's, and also undocumented and refugees, just trying to build out products that really help them in their day-to-day lives.
Hi, my name is Malou. I'm the other co-director of Here to Support. I can give some examples on what Here to Support is doing. For example, this year or also last year, we addressed the fact that undocumented people do not have the right to vote. And of course, policymakers make a lot of policy which affects their daily life, but they cannot address that by voting. So we made an alternative voting booth where people who are not, who don't have the right to vote, could vote and wrote down the things that they wanted to change. And I think one of the biggest thing that came out was the access to banking. So that's why we're working on now.
Thank you so much. Maybe then I'm gonna turn to Savannah, ask a little bit more about, you have already mentioned that you, as Here to Support, you guys are trying to really put visibility of the migrants, refugees, undocumented people. Can you give us maybe more insights about like, not only working with them, but how did you get into the ideas and get involved in not only supporting them, but also supporting them specifically on digital financial inclusion? And also why that this is a topic that sometimes can be hard for civil society actors to tackle. That's my experiences that I've seen a lot in Germany and also in Netherlands and generally in Europe. It's not a very often discussed topic for civil society.
So the Here to Support office in Amsterdam functions as a community center. We have on different times in the week different groups of undocumented people that use our space. So there is an LGBT group, there is a youth group, and there is self-organizations that have the key to our office and use our office as a place to meet. And we listen to their needs a lot. Like every day they walk in with. We also have a support desk, so people walk in with questions themselves. We try to, we see that not having a bank account in the Netherlands or having access to a card it's almost impossible to survive. And actually, for example, you cannot get a public transport ticket anymore with cash money. There is only one place in the city, and that's the central station, where you can load a card, load some cash on a card. But if you are somewhere in the city and you don't have a bank card, then it's impossible to get around in public transport. And I think that's a very, like, the example where you see where you see that the gap between people who have a bank account and the gap between people who don't have a bank account grows and grows and grows. And since COVID, it got even worse. Like even some supermarkets don't accept cash anymore. So we see this need every single day. So this is why actually it is something that is on the forefront of our agenda as an organization. And other civil society organizations are troubled by the same problem, but the solutions they try to find are very different than our solutions. So what you see around us is that a lot of NGOs and charity organizations are, for example, giving vouchers for people that they can buy tickets, that they can buy, that they can go to the grocery shop. So these, I think, are band-aid solutions. It's like helping somebody to get out of a very shitty situation, but it doesn't solve the problem that you don't have a bank account. In the Netherlands, less than 1% is unbanked. So if you walk around in the city, if you want to do things, then you need a bank account. So we are trying to go for where can we make a system change in this to find a solution.
Thank you so much for bringing both the context of the Netherlands. I also realize Netherlands is a very particular case of being a very digitalized country. On the other hand, maybe I want to turn to Eunice and ask you a little bit that, as a community organizer, also as an activist, what do you feel about a lot of those existing solutions? I think Savannah already mentioned, and also on your side, what do you see as a significant barriers that prevents people from accessing basic digital rights and financial rights?
Thank you, Chelsea. Before I will answer your questions, I just want to visualize one experience in addition to what Savannah said. I was in the tram, and there's a 14 years old who wants to go to school, but he doesn't have bank account, and he is undocumented, a Brazilian undocumented. The conductor wants him out because the conductor doesn't want to accept the cash, but he insists that he only wants to go to school and there. So there's no bank accounts, and the conductor said, "We will not move until you go out of this tram." That's dehumanizing. Okay, to answer your questions, in my experience as a community organizer, the most significant barriers faced by refugees and migrants in accessing the digital financial services revolve around legal and institutional frameworks, as well as systemic gaps in policy. I've seen the systemic exclusions of refugees and undocumented migrants from digital financial services. The root of it lies in identifications requirements by the anti-money laundering laws. And these laws are weaponized to deny access to basic banking services, demanding formal documents that most undocumented individuals simply do not have one. For example, in the Netherlands, there's a law, the Koppelingswet, that we always mention, the Linkage Act, is another tool of oppressions linking vital services to residency status. This law systematically excludes undocumented migrants from basic financial services, pushing them into informal and exploitative pathways or channels. It's a deliberate act of erasure that treats individuals as if they do not exist, denying them even the most basic dignity and rights. There's been a lack of government response to these challenges, and while financial services are becoming rapidly digitizing, policymakers have not created alternative pathways for migrants to access financial services like banking. Accepting different forms of identifications or exploring digital IDs, this oversight widens the digital divide. On an international EU-wide regulations, including IML, frameworks often follow a one-size-fits-all approach without considering the situations on the grounds of the undocumented and migrants community. The focus on security and border controls has deepened financial exclusions for those without formal identifications or residency status. What's not addressed enough? I think the demand for real solutions, community-based identification systems or digital IDs, or that allowing access to financial services without criminalizing the status. Financial services are not just about transactions or economic, they are about survival and integrations. The current approach prioritizes security over human dignity, excluding the entire community of undocumented migrants to basic services that are needed to be humane.
Thank you so much for bringing such important or also critical perspective, both of you two, from the existing solution and the problems that can exist in the existing solution to the possibility of digital identification system and alternative identification system. I wonder how you, Sarah, would think about that as someone with a fintech background, not really in the Netherlands ecosystem, but maybe you have some experiences, I know, from the UK's and also the general in the European context. What kind of solutions already exist? And also from a fintech perspective, what do you think are existing? What kind of roles can fintech play in supporting refugees and migrants in accessing those services? And also, if you have some comments or thoughts to add with regard to what they just discussed from a civil society perspective.
Definitely, thank you. So first of all, fintechs can move a lot faster than incumbents, so old banks. They're able to move at a much faster speed, and when they move forward, they leave a gap that banks can fill, generally months or years later. And from my perspective, what I've seen, what fintechs feel a great role in is the changing of policy and understanding of culture. So, the two main examples here are Bunk and Bloom. So Bunk is a fintech from the Netherlands, but Bloom is a fintech from London. It's a community banking fintech. It's basically understood that, people save and spend money in different ways. Culture has money. And what they've done is they've digitized the way that communities save money. They've digitized village and community spending, which we've spoken a lot about. So really understanding how the different cultures can be used, but also when it goes back to Bunk, what they did with the Ukrainian refugees and the policy that they did was really understand the needs of the individual. So what you guys were just talking about of, the systemic changes, what Bunk did was prove that that can happen, that change can happen, but only when there's a political will and like the need for it. So what Bunk did was, with the Ukrainian invasion in Ukrainian war in 2022, there was lots of Ukrainian refugees fleeing to Europe. And normally when you want to set up a new bank, you need EU ID. Without that, you can't set up a bank. What Bunk did, I think within 24 hours, was allow people to set up a bank with their Ukrainian ID. Understanding that, you want to create a lifeline for people, you want to help people, and also understanding there is a little bit of wiggle room to allow people to build their lives, rebuild their lives, and, find a middle ground between KYC and helping people. And that's what Bunk did. And with Bloom, I maybe go into in more detail in a bit, but they're understanding culture. And for me, that's what a fintech can do, understand culture of people and change policy to help people as well.
Thank you so much. I want to maybe turn to Malo on this because you just mentioned also a Dutch company and also the situation with the Russian invasion of Ukraine and the Ukrainian refugees and the access they currently have and the lessons we can learn from them. I guess it makes sense that it's impossible to not discuss or not to think about the political conditions and the landscape when we talk about a topic such as undocumented people, undocumented communities. And I wonder that for Malo, as on the operational level, as a co-director of Here to Support, what was your thoughts on that? How is the current condition for you guys in doing your work? And how has the condition of migration policy and the current climate change? And how has it influenced the chance of advancing digital financial inclusion for them?
Yeah, so thanks for asking that. It's a difficult question because we have a quite difficult political situation now in the Netherlands, but also all over Europe. So we have for years and years and years a really anti-migration rhetoric pushed by politics and pushed by the media. And this led to policymakers who make policy around migration worse and worse for people who actually migrate. So for asylum seekers, but people who migrate from countries without safe corridors to Europe. That's on a national level. So on a national level, we had, I think November last year, we had elections, and the really far-right party won, so now we have a coalition of very far-right politicians who really want to have as the least really not a lot of asylum seekers in the Netherlands. And of course that changed our situation. But on the other level, or on the other hand, we have, and this is a situation all of Europe, we have cities and we have national government. And people migrate into cities and live in the cities, work in the cities, contribute to city lives. And we see that in all of Europe, people who live in cities and have the right to vote have a tendency to vote progressive, which is a different thing than the tendency to vote for right. So we are having two political situations, like a national situation where we not do a lot. But in local government, we operating in the city of Amsterdam. We also work with the city of Utrecht and other cities in the Netherlands. The local governments they know that a lot of migrants and also undocumented migrants live in their city. For example, in Amsterdam, the estimation of how many undocumented people live there is around 50,000. We're not for sure because they're not registered, but so you have numbers. The city of Amsterdam knows that they also need to take care of them. And they have the support of their citizens because they vote progressive, and the situation of undocumented people is very much on the agenda, also very visible. So in Amsterdam there is a support from the locals who live there, who have a passport, and the local government to change the situation. So that there is an opening there. We are not at the national government. I think that's a bit of the answer I can give.
Thank you so much. Maybe then I want to also maybe follow up with Sarah, because you have already discussed a bit on the coalition you're building. And maybe, Sarah, do you want to maybe continue to elaborate a little bit on what kind of coalitions in the fintech ecosystems that you're in you think need to be built to address a situation and condition like this?
Yeah, definitely. So from a fintech perspective, coalitions are partnerships. So if you're building a fintech and you want to build products and services for them, it's not economically feasible for you to build all those products and services. So you partner with different organizations, building out your coalition to service your customers' needs. Again, Bloom is a great example of this. Bloom Money, based in London. What they've done is they've built a bank for refugees, immigrants, so they can save money as part of a community, much aligned with their community and their culture back home. And within that, they've built out accessible banking, but they've also built out remittance services, they've built out financial education, they've partnered with people for financial education. So really understanding all the different partnerships and coalitions that are needed to help these people at different stages of their journey. And really to go a lot deeper, what they can do next is understand the refugees' journey. So they come, there's in survival mode, and then they go into permanence. And so what are the different tools that they need during those stages? What are the different coalitions and collaborations that are needed to fulfill the needs they have at these very different stages of their life once they're a refugee?
Thank you so much. Maybe then, Savannah, maybe I want to ask you, as a civil society organization, how important is coalition building for innovation, in your view? And has a coalition you built been able to address some of the challenges you mentioned before? And maybe if you want to also further elaborate a bit on the current collaboration that Malo just mentioned a little bit, and the current research Here to Support is doing.
Yeah, I think coalitions are super important, starting within Here to Support. We try to build coalitions between undocumented migrant communities. I mean, that's already a work in itself, to make sure that we understand each other's struggles and that we understand how we can stand next to one another, so that it's like a solid coalition within the city of Amsterdam. And then, in order to make change and to have this systemic change, yeah, I already said, like, we need some kind of hackers mentality where we have to hack the system. And I wish I could be a minister and give out social security numbers and change migration status, but that's very important, very difficult to do, impossible. We have to hack the system in a different way. And I think working together with, for example, WAG. WAG is a Amsterdam-based institution working on technology, but also on social justice and democratic sphere. And they have the knowledge that we need to understand, for example, the ILP protocol, and to really bridge the in language, but also in in social thinking. Like, if we want to create a new system, how should this system look like? And definitely make undocumented people of all the communities part of this social thinking. So I really feel that they get all the space to be part of this project. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I really like what you said about hacking the system. Hackathons, which usually last very short, but we are hacking in the long term, and that's what we aim for when we talk about system change. So maybe let me turn to Eunice and ask you, maybe as a community organizer, what kind of coalition building you think is sustainable for the community, and how can we hack the system in the long term?
Of course, we need everyone involved. Community groups, policymakers. I am part of the sounding board for the City Council of Amsterdam, and our job is to advise the City Council on policy they make for the undocumented people. And as part of the coalitions of Here to Support, I'm bringing that voices of the organizations to the City Council of Amsterdam. And that's important. Of course, the tech people, we need you to make it materialize. Otherwise, it will be just talks, blah, blah, blah. And of course, the regular communications and the trust. How are we going to build the trust? That's the most important thing. For me, trust built in a process of we must not treat the undocumented community as a client. They are experts on their situations, and we are students. Learning from them and echo what we learned, and the results of our echoes should serve their interest. For me, that's how the coalition will sustain.
Wow, thank you so much. This is so moving, and I really agree with you, with what you said. Maybe then, Malo, do you want to, I want to ask you maybe more on the operational level, like what strategies have you leveraged in building your current coalitions and in making sure that the interests of the undocumented community and the expertise of the undocumented communities are heard in such process?
Yes, I'm afraid I have to make it a bit political again. Sorry. In the Netherlands, we tend to work a bit on our own little islands. And that's a bit because of how the financial system works in the Netherlands. So a lot of NGOs are funded by the government or the local government because they're a bit seen as executors of the policy. So there are not a lot of NGOs who are not dependent on the government. So that, and the government really sees it as, okay, you work with undocumented people, you work with people in asylum procedure, those are two little islands there, and you work with people who have their permits and need to integrate in the society. So those are three different levels, but yeah, that's a bit weird. But it's how the funding works. And it's quite hard to get out of that systems. So normally we work with only people who work with undocumented people. So the solutions we make with each other to make sure that they have a better life is always a bit in this banded solution, what Savannah said before. Like, we talk with other undocumented organizations, and then we find out you can have a card where you can, where the municipality gives you 100 euros a month, for example, and that card you can use only in the supermarket to buy food. You cannot go clubbing or go to the liquor store or whatever. It's really restricted. We don't go cross-sectoral in finding solutions, and with Heard Support we try to do that. So, and that's, I think this is a bit of an important question on the strategy of building coalitions. We always try to find, whether it's the art sector, whether it's the tech sector, and also important, whether we have to go to private funding, who are not in this administration bureaucratic finance situation, but we always look for funders who share our mission. And I think in this strategy, we go cross-sectoral right now with WAG. We need to have a tech party because we don't understand tech. I tried this weekend. I think I'm pretty far, but no, I'm still not sure what an ILP is. Kidding. So we, and in that coalition which we built also with the local government, with the municipality of Amsterdam, with the advisory board of Amsterdam, with private funders, with tech parties, with us, we think it's our role as Here to Support that also the voices of the migrants we do this for are with us at the table. And I think this is a bit of the strategy we try to do for this, to have a sustainable solution, and to have that this coalition is strong, and strong means sustainable, I think.
Thank you so much. I wonder if you guys would like to, from Here to Support, if you folks want to elaborate a little bit on the research that you're currently doing with the coalitions that you're currently building. What kind of research are you currently advancing? What questions, challenges you're still encountering? And is there any things that you would like support from anyone from the ecosystem?
So part of the solutions that we are researching is creating our own registration system. And we are really at the beginning of our research, so we have more questions than answers at the moment. So we are really like researching a lot of different angles. What we have been doing is looking at municipal ID cards in the US, because there is a system already of some years where even doesn't matter what your migration status is, the cities, the municipalities will give out cards and recognize your ID, despite of what the national government is saying. So you can be a New Yorker and have a New York City ID, but maybe you're not a US citizen. So we are looking at this registration systems, like how are they built up, what kind of matrix are they using, and we are currently kind of like changing that to the Dutch situation, like what kind of documents do people have. And we found out, like, this is the funny word that I used today, many people are underdocumented but not undocumented. So many people have documents that can prove their identity, but they are just a little bit too underdocumented to have. Yeah, so we are looking at this matrix, like how can we add all these proof that people have into the matrix, and part of it's community vouching. So some people, undocumented people, I already know for 12 years, and I see them every day. I can vouch for this person that he lives in Amsterdam, and he is really who he says he is, and he goes to the hospital every single week, and we have records of that. So there is a lot of things that we can use to build our own registration system. So this is, and then with Waag, we are looking at building a wallet. And we are going to check if the registration system that we have been building, if that can be compatible to the wallet, and make digital payments possible within this wallet.
Malu, do you want to continue?
Yeah, also to answer the question on what we maybe need, because we are very much in the research, I attend quite a lot of meetings this weekend, and I love the idea that in a lot of countries, African countries, there's a lot of investing in people having a digital wallet, because, and it's mentioned a lot of people from the diaspora supporting people in, for example, African countries, but also in the Philippines, in Brazil, but that's do it local here now. And and indeed, one of the biggest needs of the people we see fleeing from African countries is to support their families, but they cannot right now because they don't have a bank. So we were really focused the last couple of months on having the basic needs living in the Netherlands, like indeed buying your food, go by the metro, etc. But one of the biggest needs is indeed sending payments, cross-border payments to their families. And I think this is a bit of what we need from the Interledger network, is to think along on how we can also improve that with a digital wallet.
Thank you so much. Maybe let me turn into Eunice and Sarah to ask you, also build upon what have just been discussed on the research that Here to Support is currently doing. How can we ensure the kind of solutions you're working on, the financial inclusion policies and technologies for undocumented communities are not only sustainable, but also potentially scalable? In your view and your insights from your communities, what could be the next steps for policy practitioners and technologists in the Interledger ecosystem if they want to join your coalition to support in protecting the financial and digital rights of undocumented communities?
Looking ahead, advancing digital financial inclusions for refugees and undocumented migrants will require innovative supports, solutions like digital IDs and, like what my colleagues in Here to Support said, community-based ID system. This can provide secure alternatives for those lacking traditional documents, allowing access to essential financial services. Policy changes should focus on adopting inclusive anti-money laundering regulations that recognize these alternative forms of identifications and reduce systemic exclusion. The Interledger ecosystem can play a crucial role here by enabling low-cost, secure, and borderless payments. Its open protocol allows for seamless transactions, like my colleague Malu said. They're always sending remittances to their families. It's seamless transactions across diverse financial networks, helping undocumented communities send and receive money without needing traditional bank accounts. The infrastructure supports financial autonomy that can break down barriers, advancing the fundamental rights of undocumented individuals to participate in the economy with dignity and security.
Thank you.
Definitely, and I just want to echo what was previously been said about the need of building with the community and seeing them as a community and not clients. So from my perspective, to build out something that's usable and fantastic is to go deep in your user research and to go really deep in understanding who you're working with and build it out with the user research methodology. So it's not about understanding how they want to pay, it's about understanding their whole lives, understanding that it's not about sending money, it's about stability, it's about intergenerational wealth, it's about caring for their home, it's about loving and giving back to their community. So it's about going really deep and understanding that And like you said, echoing that voice and always echoing that voice throughout, even when you're talking to policymakers, technologists, you are that voice of the community and the person, and never ever forgetting that voice, because they don't have one, so you have to be it for them.
Thank you so much. So we have very short time left, so maybe it's a time to open the stage for some questions, comments, thoughts from the audience. I see one over here. Thank you.
Hello. I think the work that you're doing is great. My question is, how can we help you? Because if I think about the problem that you're trying to solve has so many facets, but at the root of it, you have an identification problem. You have a credibility of identification problem. There's an open source product called MOSIP, which helps governments establish identification systems within their ecosystems, and that might give you some technology that you can use. But it almost sounds like the scope of your problem completely blows my mind. How is it possible that somebody could be an undocumented migrant in a country for 12 years? Surely there's a process somewhere in that country that should be able to pick that up. I cannot wrap my head around the fact that that is a problem that persists for so long. So how can we help you with what we have to offer?
I think part of our work is also to solve the individual needs for people to get documents, like to get into documentation. I mean, that's also part of our work. Like, we know people who are already 41 year undocumented in our country. So this is really crazy, and I think part of the solutions that we've tried to find as an organization is also in that area. But I also believe that there will always be displaced people. There will always be people that arrive and are underdocumented to get a bank account. And I think that's what we are trying to solve here. So I don't think we can change the part that there will always be undocumented people in a country. Maybe anyone else have?
Yeah, I think this question for help is like having a technical solution which might solve the solution we try to find with this identity. Yes, that is a good thing to talk about, because we don't know yet. But also, help is also indeed maybe listen to us here on this panel, because we found out last year in Costa Rica Summit that we also had a talk, and I think people are not really aware of this exclusion in the Netherlands, and to create awareness on what's happening in the Netherlands. Someone said in one session, I wrote it down, accepted exclusion, and I think we in the Netherlands really accepted that undocumented migrants are excluded because it's your own fault. While you're here, you just go back to your own country is actually the narrative from media and politicians. And I think for us telling the story to you, and you're asking the question, how can we help, is maybe all going to a place where we can have more advocacy, more awareness around this theme. So thank you for asking and be here.
I was going to say, since we spoke, apologies to everybody else, we spoke at lunchtime. I've reached out to the fintech founders in the UK. We've got 3 more examples in addition to Nina and Bloom. And she was shocked you mentioned her, so she says thank you. So quite happy to reach out to you guys. I know too many people is the problem. So I've got the Chief Compliance Officer of Pocket. He's also basically created a solution for monies. They're going to, that allows undocumented migrants in the UK, same problem. It was shocking to find out it exists as well. So thank you for raising it. We'll talk afterwards, but I've got about 5 or 6 different options to help give you solutions. Pocket has a prepaid card which addresses your part. There's some things, I know the Netherlands very well, so quite happy to give you solutions and answers to a lot of the things, and we'll talk later. But
thank you so much for that.
No worries.
Any connection that you think, like we heard about MOSIP just now, so I think it's good to brainstorm and to among each other.
Can I,
Oh, I think, yeah.
I was just going to say, with Bunk in Ukraine, it kind of highlighted what can be done and what can be done when people leverage their power. And so that highlights what should be done going forward, basically.
Yeah, maybe one more example. You can maybe elaborate on it. Like in the last 3 months ago, the municipality of Amsterdam gave out a social service number, which is not used, cannot be used yet for other social services, but for the public transport for undocumented children. So all of a sudden, the municipality of Amsterdam can find a solution for undocumented children to give them a free public transport, which I think these are the things that give us hope. And like I think within the progressive Solidarity City, I think we really try to find the local solutions at the moment.
First, what can you do to help us to solve this problem? I think there is no solution right now, but you sitting there listening to us is you helping us to echo this problem. Probably it will result one day in an international law that will pressure the national government of Europe to implement this digital identification system. Second, I don't think that solutions is always be with the host country, which is, for example, Europe or South Africa. The solution is back home. If there is an economic war and it was not addressed by the home government, then there will always be undocumented migrants in other countries. If there's always war, and we don't say anything to stop that war, there will always be refugees. There will always be displaced people. And they use as our taxes to create that war. And we should ask ourselves, what should we do about it? About Savannah's talk, saying about the social number for children. So every year, the municipality of Amsterdam is giving away free transportations to Amsterdamer children. But they always exclude the undocumented children. So what I did, I wrote to the municipality, I brought it to the city council and say, hey, you told us that undocumented migrants are Amsterdamer. So why the children are again excluded on this? So all the member of the sounding board of the city council are composed of undocumented people. And I am the only one who have documents. We wrote together and we never stopped asking them about the free transportation for the undocumented children. So they did magic because suddenly they could give a social security number. But why they cannot do it like for everyone, for all the undocumented? So I think if they really wanted to, they can. But they are lack of political will to do it. Why? Maybe they don't like us. Simple as that.
It's really sad, sad truths that we're discussing here. I want to also share maybe just a little bit on like the last thing that you mentioned about how can it be? Because so I am also a community organizer that I've been trying to support and working with the refugees and migrant communities since 2014 and 15. And in the almost past 10 years, I've been asking myself every half a year that how could a country like Germany have the situation we have right now? And I am in an approach right now that I do not want to assume ill intention of anyone, but I think the problem existing sometimes is we assume that the system should be working. We assume that it's a brilliant mind working together seamlessly and everything should be working. But very often there are too many bureaucratic hurdles that comes in the way. There are too many historic, let's say, legacies, many different regulations and laws and policies as we've seen, and also how they are actually being implemented on the ground level. There are a lot of inconsistency. And it's not because people always are willingly doing this. They are like lack of interdepartment communication sometimes. There are certain laws that are inherited or never updated for a very long time and took a long process to update. And I think that's precisely why we're here. We're seeing a direction of what could be done when there are certain solutions that take longer to figure out, and we are here trying to find a fast track in some way through the technologies that we currently have. And we need this fast track because the problem is urgent. We cannot wait sometimes, and we need more people to try to join us to build a faster track and echo their voices to really solve the problems on the grassroots that are impacting people every single day. Yes, maybe we can do one more question. Last question, yes.
I reached out on your question for digital wallets that will help the undocumented workers just now. And I specifically asked on the Philippines, because I know a lot of people from your community are undocumented from the Philippines. Uchi can help you out at Chi Money. He said that he can onboard people from the Philippines, and this week, because of this, he's onboarding people without going through the KYC process, which means it's a lot easier, and he's giving them a little bit of money to their wallets as well. So we need to get you those codes, and if you need help onboarding anybody, although I did it very quickly in the other room, but I am also happy to help you with that, and I'm sure that Uchi would be happy to provide you with the step-by-step slides.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much for everyone's participation, for important insight, and for the rest of the questions and comments and discussion. I'm sure we can have it outside of the stage. Thank you very much.